Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Q&Ray. Today I'm joined by Jared Miller from Kauai, and we're going to look at video today, right? All right, tell me what was the intention on this? What were you trying to work on?
So this was part of my strength balance testing for a
Active life?
coach I signed up, for Active Life.
Okay.
So we built he said warm up to a weight you can do or you think you can do for 5 reps.
Okay.
And then one of the other videos I uploaded was actually a tension test. So it was 50% for 20 reps. Something that I struggle with in my deadlifting is getting low back pumps on my left side.
Okay.
And so I've been working a lot on just the mechanics of my bracing and my breathing, but also really, hamstring recruitment and things like that.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Let's look at the other one first before we dive in. Oh, there's 3 videos coming in.
The other one's butterfly pull-ups.
Okay. Let's see. Here's the second one.
Or this might be the heavier one. Oh yeah, I don't. Okay. That's the same video. I might have uploaded twice.
No, they're labeled differently. No, they're different sets.
Okay.
Yeah, they're different sets, I think. Okay. So you're saying that you get a pump on the left side?
Yeah, and I've ended up having some pretty stark discrepancies in the hypertrophy on my left side too, just because of it. So.
Okay, so this is what I do. You're a pretty dang good mover. So what I'm gonna look at is I'm just gonna look at your feet first. Okay.
Okay.
That's normally what I do when I don't know what to look for first, because a lot of times you can tell a lot from what's happening in the feet. Now,
Okay.
your right foot seems to stay pretty well planted, but you see how you see how when you kind of load up, you load onto the outside edge of your foot there?
Yeah.
It's more so on the left, not as much on the right. As we're going through the reps, just focus on your feet as you go. So I'm looking, see how your left big toe is starting to displace and your right foot stays pretty planted?
Yeah.
So especially on that rep there, you went to the outside edge of the foot. Go. See how your foot's spinning and twisting?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So whenever I see that, it's really, really subtle. Most people won't see that or even think to look at that. But what that's telling me there is there's a little bit of displacement going over to more glute med, which will then go to your low erectors on the left side versus staying on glute max.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I've been studying with the StrongFit guys for the last 2 years, and that's one of the things
I
focus on a lot. So I always use this photo because it's really helpful. But the deadlift, when we do the deadlift, I always tell people you want to feel everything in the yellow muscles.
Oh, okay.
So we teach the yellow muscles are the internal torque chain, the external torque chain is the red muscles. So you're blowing up right about here, yeah? Right in this area?
Yeah.
So when that left foot starts to disconnect, what that's showing me is you're starting to go off onto the outer quad on this side, glute med, and the erector here. So you've got some pretty good hypertrophy right here, right?
Yeah.
So what I would focus on is getting more connection here in glute max, and it's inside head.
Okay.
The yellow muscles, their role is to create isometric stabilization throughout the movement. The conventional deadlift especially is pretty much all yellows is the way I teach it. So
Sure.
what's probably happening is you don't have as much connection here or here. And when your foot deviates to that side, it shows me the tension's going off to the outside edge of your body there.
Okay.
You ever
That makes
foam
sense.
roll like this side, like the TFL, the glute
Yeah,
med,
it blows up. I
blows
don't
up
like
like
doing
crazy
that.
because that's what you're using. Now, the red muscles, their role is more for like explosiveness, explosive things, short time under tension, and the yellows
Okay.
are more long time under tension. Most CrossFitters that I've worked with, if you ask them which muscles do you tend to foam roll the most, they're gonna say the red ones. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Like traps, this side of the shoulder, lats, glute med,
Sure.
quads, all those things. And normally, what that indicates to me is if you're needing to foam roll those things, there is a discrepancy between your external torque chain and your internal torque chain. When you foam roll SMR, basically what it does is it gets the muscle to relax, right? So now the
Hmm.
reason why you feel balanced because is you've, in a sense, relaxed the red muscles to match the yellows. So for
Okay.
you, what I'd have you do is to focus on turning on the yellows instead.
Sure.
So one of the really cool exercise that one of my students sent me the other day. She was experimenting with this. I'll show it to you right now. All right, cool. So this one's a really fun one. I saw this and I was like, dude, it reminds me of this girl I used to train like 10 years ago. She came in and all she wants to do is work on her butt.
Yeah.
So basically, what we're doing is you're in a kneeling position. You got a kettlebell and holding out in front of you, and we're gonna do a real subtle hinge.
Okay.
And the intention is to just get a huge, massive pump on the glute max.
Also super, super slight.
Yeah, super slight. And you'll hear her breathing. You see how she's inhaling down, exhaling up.
Yeah.
One of the tricks that the StrongFit guys have figured out that the inhale through the nose allows a connection from brain to body to actually establish where or for you to determine where your mobility of the glute is. If she were to go any
Huh.
lower, she would disconnect from the glute and start displacing. So the inhale through the nose tells her how far she can go down. She inhales through the nose. When the inhale stops, she stops descending, and then she changes directions on an exhale. The It sounds like voodoo, but it's a trick that I've been using for pretty much everything. Like when I'm
Super
coaching
interesting.
people in the squat, what I'll do is I'll have them inhale through the nose on the way down. Wherever the inhale stops, that's their bottom. If they go past it, you'll see they'll start to displace. Their butt will tuck under, their knee will start to cave, their foot will
Hmm.
collapse. It's a cool indicator to see where there's actually mobility. You know,
Yeah.
the mobility of the glute. I love explaining it this way. Like if you stand up tall, squeeze your butt cheeks together, you can find your butt
Hmm.
cheeks, right? As soon as you bend over just a little bit, you try to do the same thing, you can't find it as good. So it's the same idea as when you're making a bicep, right? You can create a lot of contraction here. When you straighten the arm, it's harder to find it because the muscle's longer. So essentially,
Yeah.
what she's doing here is she's starting at the top where she's got the most contraction on the glute. Then she bends down to the point where she can still connect with the glute, but not past it. And then she comes
That
back
makes
up.
sense.
So we use this as an activation for anything that we're gonna be needing the glutes for. So that's one thing you can play
Okay.
with.
So you would incorporate those to like warm ups.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Another way I like to turn on the glutes is to have people do a glute bridge. But one thing that people tend
Hmm.
to not do enough of in the glute bridge is actually incorporate the hamstrings. Have you ever had
Yeah.
people do glute bridges and they complain that their back hurts?
Yes.
So one thing I do with them is I'll have them bridge up and then move their feet away from their butt usually, like move it further away from the butt, and then dig their big toe into the ground and then pull the floor towards their butt. And
Okay.
instantly the hamstrings will light up. If that doesn't work, I tell them to pretend that there's a med ball between their knees. Crush the med ball, but don't let the knees go in. So we're creating
Hmm.
a position of external rotation with internal torque, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're not creating a
Yeah.
new like a valgus position. We're maintaining the knee out position, but we're creating tension on the inside of the leg there to stabilize the leg, the knee, and the hip. So playing around with that stuff has been really really helpful
Okay.
for people who don't have glutes. Um, I had the same problem as you with the deadlift. When I went to my coaches week for StrongFit, they did an
Sure.
assessment on me, and on my right side, my right here, this is enormous.
Yeah.
My mid back is enormous, and when I squat, my knee caves in on the right side. And so I have weak glutes and hamstrings on the right side. And ever since I started working on my glutes, my back doesn't blow up when doing deadlifts anymore. And
That's pretty rad.
it's pretty rad, and
Yeah,
it's
I'm
kind
like
of
opposite.
humbling.
My left side is blown up.
Yeah, it's super humbling because I've been on seminar staff since 2015, and I can demo and make it look like it's supposed to, but I wasn't recruiting the right musculature, and my back would blow up every time we did Diane,
Yeah.
and I couldn't figure it out why, and it's
Yeah.
because I didn't have connection with my glute. So play around with that,
Mm-hmm.
play around with those drills, and then even after this call,
Okay.
the next couple of weeks, play around with it and text and send me a message on Instagram. Let me know how that's going. But
Sure. Do you have any cues for like, so when I sent you the message to apply to do the call or whatever, I remembered back to the gymnastics thing that you were one of the staff members there, and
yeah,
I think it was on Oahu,
yeah,
and you were talking about in the squat, pulling yourself down into the squat. And ever since you shared that cue with me, that's something I've used for myself and my clients. Do you have any similar cues like that for deadlifting as
oh,
far
it's
as
the same
foot
exact
position and what
idea.
you should be thinking about?
It's the same
Yeah,
exact idea. So when I teach the squat, what I think about, how people say spread the floor, right?
sure.
You've heard that before. Well, the thing is that spread the floor or knees out. Here's what you're doing. You're actually asking this teeny tiny glute med to stabilize the hip on the squat, right? This
Yeah,
small muscle here. Whereas what the cue that I taught you to pull the floor down or pull yourself down is recruiting
mm-hmm.
the inside head of the hammy and the glute max to stabilize the position.
Okay,
And the psoas to help create the active hip flexion. So you're thinking about hamstring to flex the knee, psoas to flex the hip, and then the glute stabilizing all that together. When I teach
yeah.
deadlift, I teach it very similarly, where I say, all right, set your feet and think about pulling your feet together. Like try that right now. Slight bend the knee, just stand there and pull the floor together. What muscles do you feel turn on?
All the inner adductor musculature.
Yeah, and it's mostly you don't actually really want adductor, but you want more of like right this
And into the
section,
hamstring.
inside hammy,
Yeah,
head of hammy. So that's what's going to stabilize that position there. And if you can get that to fire, your left foot's not going to displace, and you're not going to
mm,
displace off to like that glute med and the erector. Um, the way the torque chains work is that if you're firing one, you're likely to get them all together. So for the lower half of the body, it's VMO, semi-membranosus, glute max. Those go together. Upper body, it's gonna be pec teres major, short head of the bicep. But
mm-hmm.
what you did is you went to outside glute, glute med, TFL, which now also connects to the erector.
Yeah.
So they all kind of come together as friends. So it's the same
Okay.
deal. For the legs, I teach to pull the floor together, but don't let the knees cave in. With the upper body, you know how you've seen CrossFitters do this where they really go in this big like arch here? They're trying to
Yeah.
craft their shoulder blades and then they get a back arch too at the same time. If you watch powerlifters, they look a little more turtly, right?
Yeah.
But they're locked up top and their lumbar is locked in. So my favorite cue for that part is to take your hands and go like this and squeeze in towards your thighs. What muscles do you feel turn on now?
All the lat.
Lat, pec. So it's pec,
Yeah.
teres major, pec,
Yeah.
and so that's what keeps the shoulders locked in.
Okay.
And that's the way I teach. Basically, the deadlift is you're basically trying to keep everything close to you, right? That's the basic premise of the deadlift. You're trying to keep everything close to you so you can move as much weight as possible, keeping everything as close to your center of mass as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the role of the yellow muscles or the internal torque chain is to keep things close to you. The thing that's happening with
Yeah.
you, the reason why your back is blowing up is because you're defaulting to the muscles that are used to push things away. So
That
think
makes
about
sense.
recruiting all of the yellows. So external oblique, lower ab, psoas, VMO, glute max, semimembranosus, inside head of the calf. That's the stuff that we want to do for the deadlift, and that's what keeps everything close together.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That's great. I get to deadlift later today, so I'm excited to do it. So,
Yeah, play around.
Brad, that's helpful.
And I think you're deadlifting regular grip, right?
I think so.
I would encourage you to continue doing that. And the reason for that is, and I mean, for me, I'm not, yeah, you are going double overhead grip, which is good. Because Try doing this, okay? So you take your hands, both palms down, and then squeeze in like this. Okay? You feel the tension you can create?
Yeah.
Now turn one
Yeah.
hand around and see what happens.
Yeah. The one side turns off.
It turns off. You can't connect as well because now you're switching to external torque chain on this side while this is all internal.
Sure.
Cool.
Okay.
Let's take a look at the pull-ups. These don't look that bad. What are you working on here?
Well, I was actually demoing them for an athlete that's working on them. But for me, mine actually begin to fall apart when I'm stringing higher volume chest to bar stuff. I don't
Okay.
think these are quite chest to bar. And then I actually get a little bit of lower back pain sometimes as I fall into the arch there.
Okay.
Very subtle and only if I'm ever working super high volume, but not terribly often.
Yeah, same thing. Because you see how you're coming in, have like this big arch here instead of like a tight
Yeah.
hollow arch. That's the
Yeah.
biggest thing. So you're kind of going to your low back in a sense there. So you want the pull up to basically be a cycle between hollow arch, hollow arch, hollow arch. Whereas
Mhm.
right now you see how you're a big arch here.
Yeah.
You want to keep that tighter. One other thing, do you remember what Elaine said at the seminar? It's something that I stole from her, and it makes total sense when you look at the internal torque chain graphic.
In what regard? What was she talking about?
What is your head supposed to do?
Fall through.
Well, where should your head be looking?
Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember.
So your head follows, your body follows what your head's doing.
Yeah.
So we want to stay, you don't want to be like this humongous arch here.
Sure.
So keep it down here. You notice when you're pulling, you start to go like this?
Yeah.
That's actually how I met my wife. So she had been texting me on Instagram for a little while. I was just kind of answering to be polite. And then one day I was like, dude, she's actually kind of cute. So I messaged her. I go, hey, are you open to feedback? And she's like, yes. And I go, hey, on your toasted bar, don't look at the bar. And she's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, no, seriously, go try that. Because if you think about it, like if you go like this, try to touch your toes. It's a lot harder, right?
Yeah.
Your body follows what your head is doing. But if you're here, you're able to press down on the apparatus better. And then if you look at the graphic again, so if you look back at the torque chain graphic, most of gymnastics, like toes to bar, pull-ups, it's all yellows. You see that?
Yeah.
So when you're doing a bar muscle up, you're pressing down with the pec and the teres and the inside part of the forearm, all the yellow muscles. As soon as you lift your head up, if you look at this graphic, what muscle are you using? Is it red or yellow?
The teres major.
Well, no. When you lift
Oh,
your
right there.
it's
Oh,
red.
yeah. The it's all red.
So now you're switching to reds.
Okay.
So in general, when you're trying to do the gymnastic stuff, try to stay chin down a little bit instead of looking at the bar. I mean, the bar's not going anywhere, right? So you just press yourself down to that position, and then you'll stay more in the pec and here,
Yeah.
going to low back and trap, which is what people tend to do a lot of when they're doing volume pull-ups. You see people do pull-ups. You see how they kind of shrug like that. And then when they arch, they're big like scorpions. And I mean, doing that just like this right now with no load, my low back on the right side's blowing up.
Yeah.
So try
How would that translate? How would that translate to? So like the biggest thing I'm working on right now for my gymnastics in prep for the open is just stringing higher volume ring muscle ups. How would that? And I feel like that transfers the same way. I try to keep my eyes fixed on my look for my toes straight ahead. But then under fatigue, I end up getting that looking up towards the rings and pulling towards my chest.
Yeah, and that's normal.
And that's when it falls apart.
For sure, that's normal when it's fatigue. I would just play around with keep building up those the internal torque chain. So more teres, more of this stuff. Like what helped me with muscle up was to do lots of slow negatives. Like I had a girl I was coaching in San Diego she was doing Invictus programming every week, and she would get one muscle up, and then after that she was chicken winging everything.
Sure.
And I'm like, dude, you're 19 years old. Do you really want to blow up your shoulders right now? And she's like, no. I'm like, okay. So for the next 3-4 months, what I want you to do is anytime there's a workout with muscle ups, instead of kipping the muscle up, start at the top of the muscle up, lower yourself down through the transition really slow and focus on staying as tight as you can. Like, you see, one thing
Mm,
that we taught you at the gymnastics course is we want chest up, eyes up, right? But
yeah.
a lot of times you see people do what? They're like this, or they
Yeah.
kind of like headbutt themselves through instead of being here, coming down and staying upright to this position here, and then pressing the
Yeah.
ring back down. So what she did was whenever there was muscle ups in the workouts, instead of doing kipping muscle ups, I would have her start at the top and support. And if she needed to put her feet on the floor to kind of give herself a toe spot, she could do
Hmm.
that. That was fine. She would lower down to here, chest up, so everything on, not like this, which is what everyone wants to do, right? You see people doing their muscle ups like this, they all collapse. So it's
Yeah.
here, so pecs are on, Terry's is on, and then she comes down slow through the transition, and then presses back through. And I kid you not, like when the open came around, remember that workout where it was deadlifts, double unders, muscle ups?
Yeah.
Remember that workout? She texted me. I was in Brazil. She's like, I don't know how this happened, but I went so much further than I was expecting to. And why? Because
That's
we help
awesome.
develop the structure of it versus focusing so much on the volume of it. You know
So just working on owning those positions.
exactly, and more so creating the right tension in those positions.
Sure.
You're saying your back blows up on those too?
Not as much, but I can string together 16, 17 bar muscle ups, but then on the rings, nowhere close.
Okay,
And it's just the technique falls apart.
yeah.
So,
Treat it the same. It's literally just a press down. You're pressing down the entire time in the muscle. Once
mm,
you start to pull, so when people they do this right and they arch like this, instead of you see a gym,
yeah.
they're pressing their rings down and they come in through like that. It's different. They're different musculatures. Um, I think something that's important to understand is that you can do basically any exercise in either torque chain. Like you can do pull ups in all reds, you can do pull ups in all yellows.
Hmm.
And in fact, for people who compete, I actually encourage them to learn how to do it both ways. That way, when one
Yeah.
system tires out, you have another trick to switch to.
Mm,
Like these torque chain stuff, you can do deadlifts in all IT. You can do them all in ET. More ET, like we call it ET for external torque chain, IT for internal torque chain. The deadlift, in its purest sense, to get the most strength, is going to be all IT, all yellows. But once your ITs
okay.
tire out, it is totally possible and feasible to try and do it with all reds. It's going to look a
That's
lot
so
more like
interesting.
a clean deadlift versus a
Yeah.
conventional deadlift. It's more squatty.
That's what my deadlifts generally look like. I feel like
Yeah, and
more
but
like a
here
clean
it
grip.
didn't look that bad. It looked pretty good. Um,
Okay.
but you could see there was that just a subtle deviation with what was happening on your left side. And so when you
Hmm.
said low left, low back on left, I was like, okay, cool. Because truth be told, I was watching it, I was like, oh man, I don't see a whole lot going on. And then I started to watch your foot, and I saw things started to go. And then when you said left, low back, I'm like, okay, that's it right there. You have like
Hmm.
this slight displacement of tension to the outside here, and then it's going up to here.
Yeah.
So
That's always like chronically stiff.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That muscle's not meant for long time under tension. And what's funny is when I first met Julian, Coach B set it up for me, and I was talking to him, and he was telling me how like if you squat knees out, you're gonna blow up your hips, you're gonna screw up your hips. And I go, no, you're not. That's I've been doing it forever. What do you mean? Like, and it's funny. Like literally last month, I remembered that the summer before I met Julian, I used to have to squat taping my hip together with voodoo floss because I had so much
What?
pain here and in here, which makes complete sense. Because if you
Yeah.
look at the photo, if you look at this photo here, I was completely overusing this teeny tiny muscle to stabilize all of the things. And it's funny because I didn't even realize that until last month. Like, oh man, he was right. I did screw up my hip. And so basically, it's simple mathematics. If you look at it right, which looks bigger, the yellows or the reds from here? Like which one
The
makes
yellows.
sense? This it makes more ways. It
Yeah.
makes way more sense to do that.
Sounds like I have to go check out some strong fit stuff.
Yeah, they're doing a seminar in San Diego in June,
That'd
pending
be rad.
and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's. I know that they would love to come to Hawaii. We just don't have enough people out there.
Dude, we shut the island down too. So
There's that true. There's that too. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool, man.
All right, dude. That's super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions?
I think that should be good.
All right.
I appreciate
Cool.
it.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, brother.
All right. Bye.